Welcome to Table Talk here at the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world. Just about 13 years strong. We got a great conversation coming your way this week on our Table Talk interview discussion. Going to be going in a little bit of a different direction this week. We're not necessarily concentrating on the world of Philly sports, but we're concentrating on, one, women in sports, two, how these ladies who are joining us this week are looking to change the world of women's sports. And I think they've got something great they're going to be talking to us about. We've got our good friend, Alyssa Freda, and Kristen Roberts with us to really dive into a new app that they are developing, that app called BackcourtIQ. Alyssa, thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you. I'm so happy to be doing this and glad to get to talk about this with Kristen, my amazing co-founder.
Yes, Kristen, thanks so much for joining us as well. We appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. We're excited to talk about it today.
All right. Again, folks, it is BackcourtIQ. You're going to need to be on the lookout, not only for this app, but the great work that these ladies are going to be doing in the future as it pertains to this particular website and app. So, look, I want to start our conversation when it comes to the world of sports, because storytelling is such an important aspect of the sports world to keep the attention of fans. I mean, this really has become the norm for basically all of sports. Storytelling is just so absolutely critical. And because of this aspect of sports, I'm wondering, Alyssa, we'll start with you. How have you seen fans over the years engaging differently with women's sports compared to men's sports? And consequently, what are the misconceptions out there that still exist for women's sports, in your opinion?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think one thing that we're seeing is in the women's space, fans are looking to be engaged with the players, and the way they're interacting online and during the games, it's very different from what we see on the men's side. So I think just looking at how in men's sports, you usually are following a team, and that team changes, but that's your team. Whereas in women's basketball, what we're seeing is people starting to follow players.
Yeah.
So they're following players. They could switch to any team and you're still going to be watching. I mean, I know for me personally, I watch all of the games, and, kind of feel like we know who the players are with that content that they're posting. We know a lot about their social lives, whatever they choose to show fans. And it definitely builds that engagement in that community. And
Yeah.
Kristen, I know you agree with this. Just looking at the All-Star weekend this year, the Stud Buds had that 24-hour live stream, and everyone got to follow along and be part of it. And I think that really kind of changed the landscape.
Would you agree with that, Kristen? And, feel free to offer your thoughts about any of the, misconceptions that do still exist for women's sports here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree with Alyssa. I think it's more sort of intentional and community driven when it comes to the women's fan base. And there are a lot of misconceptions. I think one is that it's less competitive, and that's just objectively false. It's just kind of differently covered.
Yep.
I would say. And I would also say people aren't interested is another big one. And really the demand is there. It's just the access is not.
Yeah, absolutely. Alyssa, it was interesting how you said it seems as though, folks who are more so following, women's sports, it's really about players that they're following necessarily instead of teams. Do you think, look, it happened before Caitlin Clark blew up on the scene, but do you think she helped to put that type of, foundational piece into play necessarily? Do you think she was really the driving force for that?
I think she was the driving force for a lot of media coverage and increasing that coverage, which then brought more eyes overall. My family's been watching the WNBA for years, but this definitely started to increase how many other people who maybe had never watched it, had never been interested in it, how many eyes there came.
Yeah. Look, we want to get into your endeavor here and your just diving into the tech world here. And look, women's basketball has grown in terms of its audience year after year. It's something we've talked about a number of times on this podcast platform. And sometimes, I like watching women's basketball more than I actually like watching men's basketball, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm wondering if we can talk about your collective story for a bit here. Kristen, I'm going to start with you. What was the moment when you realized that women's basketball needed an app like the one that you are creating with Backcourt IQ? Give us your story here.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of our core values here is we want to help close that gap between the quality of the game that we're seeing and the quality of the fan experience.
Yeah.
So with the availability of data and how that data is used in conjunction with stories that are, off court stories and personalities, just to build that full picture and the impact of the player.
Alyssa, do you think that not only your love of the game, but maybe that, that sort of disconnect in a way that Kristen kind of alluded to really helped to push you over the edge in terms of wanting to give women's basketball another type of experience here? So, I mean, when you can even talk about that and how that may even relate to the moment that you realized that you wanted to embark on this endeavor.
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, this idea came to be while watching the Big East Championship. UConn was playing. I was texting Kristen, and Kristen and I are always texting back and forth about games,
Yeah.
Anything we're seeing. But there's not many other people that we can interact with about women's basketball, about the teams, about the players. I could go to most of my other friends and say, hey, do you know this person? Like, this is something that just happened. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
And they have no idea what I'm talking about. And even trying to, explain the impact of these players, there's definitely a disconnect there as well. And so I think, it really did come to be on the couch while watching women's basketball and thinking, I wish there was somewhere that I could go right now and talk about this and really have good dialogue, and backed by data and backed by what we're actually watching right now. And so I think that really contributed, along with the love of women's basketball.
Absolutely.
Wanting it everywhere.
Women's basketball has become a large community, and there's a large community online on different social apps, of course. But the one thing that you really don't see a lot is that community really coming together, taking form, taking shape, where folks can really dive into what's going on with various players, inevitably what's going on with various teams, but inevitably the enjoyment of the game itself. Is that kind of the direction you want to go here when it comes to Backcourt IQ?
Oh, for sure. And I think one thing that also really pushed us in this direction is anytime I'm on social media looking at the comment sections and just looking at what the current dialogue is around women's basketball, it honestly really upsets me. And I'm like, okay, we've got to shift this narrative. We've got to create a safe space for us to have these conversations without people who don't watch, who are not fans, just coming in with their commentary, and kind of putting a negative spin on
being jerks. Yes, just being jerks. I mean, we see it all the time in the world of sports in general, whether it's certain players, whether it's certain teams. And I think there's a certain respect level, I think that, and I do think it's growing with regard to women's sports and women's basketball in particular, on the college level, on the pro level as well. But that respect level, I think it's increasing over the years here. Kristen, is that something that you've seen as well?
Yeah, I have seen that. Absolutely. And I think one place where we can do better with that is kind of, why aren't we telling these stories better?
There you go.
And yeah, I think one example that came to mind for me was Maryland Terrapins. They beat the Minnesota Gophers in double overtime, right? They were down by 9, about 43 seconds left. And you look at the ESPN win probability there, 0.1% chance to win. And that's what, 1 in 1,000? So they beat the math and they won. And I was writing an article about it, and I couldn't find a lot of information about it. And I was like, this is crazy. This is, something that should be a spotlight.
Absolutely. Look, before we go to break here, I really wanted to talk about, how you view your tech endeavor here with this new app, with Backcourt IQ, really kind of changing the sports dialogue in the future? We're not going to dive into like what's going to be in the app yet. That's for you ladies at some point to unveil to the sports world. But I mean, how do you want to really change that dialogue in the future, Alyssa? You know, do you have a certain concept in mind that you can share with us here?
Yeah, I think dialogue wise, we want it to be more than just one player, more than just one league, even. And women's basketball deserves the respect. And again, going back to what you'd asked before, yeah, we haven't historically had that, and we still have a lot of work to do. So this is to kind of, bridge that gap in the world's perception versus what the product actually is. And I mean, obviously, looking at this new CBA agreement, the WNBA, they are seeing the value. They know the players' value.
Yeah.
And we just need everybody else to kind of catch up. And so I think this is going to be a platform that really helps tell the story, the impact. And for people who maybe don't understand women's basketball, they are able to understand it. It's going to break it down in a way that anyone can understand, so it's not just for sports fans. It's not just for basketball fans. You can love some of the players and then be able to kind of understand what they're actually doing in a way that it's not accessible to women's sports right now.
Kristen, I think a word that Alyssa said right there was impact. And I think that is a key word in terms of what I'm hearing so far is the foundational principles with regard to Backcourt IQ and what you want to do there. Can you expand upon that a little bit? Talk about, again, changing the sports dialogue in the future through this endeavor.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're not just showing what happened, but we're helping fans understand why it matters. So when you're looking at impact, these women are role models and they're leaders. They have great leadership skills, and I feel like that is not spotlighted enough. And just to keep, the generational run of women's basketball going, we want to be able to showcase them.
Yep. All right. Very good. Well, we are going to be going to a break here. And with that said, Kristen, if you don't mind, let folks know where they can start to find you online, where they can start finding, Backcourt IQ online as well. If there are any social sites, websites, landing pages that you want to get out there, feel free.
Yeah, absolutely. So follow along at Backcourt IQ. Follow us on Instagram. We have some interesting content coming up, and join the community early while we're getting started. And we also have a landing page, Alyssa, if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, we do have a landing page. It's kind of a place where you can go to follow along for updates and kind of be in the know. But I will say our Instagram community is where we're really growing and trying to create the community before we then move to the platform. I think the landing page is more of, what we're about, what our vision is, our mission. But if you want that community, it's on Instagram.
Awesome. Folks, let us know if you're watching on YouTube, what your thoughts are, what you're looking forward to with regard to Backcourt IQ and what these amazing ladies are going to be doing in the future. Leave us a comment below on YouTube. And if you're listening on whatever audio platform that you got the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast show on right now, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to shoot us off an email, philadelphiasportstable@gmail.com. Love to read your email here on the show and respond to it. We are going to take a break. And when we get back, we got more talk with these amazing ladies. Stick with us. All right, we are back talking to Alyssa Freda and also Kristen Roberts, who are the creators of the new and upcoming app, Backcourt IQ. And as we're moving along with the dialogue and the conversation here, ladies, diving into the tech space, I like to follow the tech world in a lot of different ways. Haven't been necessarily too happy with the tech world as of late. That's a conversation for another time. But in this day and age, it can't be easy based on where the tech world is going, where it's gone, what the expectations are going to be in the future. I mean, look, our brains are constantly being filled with digital content day after day, my gosh, sometimes hour after hour. But I'm wondering, what has been the hardest part of building a sports tech startup? And consequently, did being women founders kind of shape your experience in this sports tech space here? Kristen, feel free to get us started here.
Sure. Yeah. I'd say we're not just building a product, but we're building it in a space that's still being defined. So that's definitely a challenge for us. But we do understand the audience because we are the audience. So I think that's a big leg up that we have here. And then I would say, women in tech. I might switch that and say women in sports. I'm going to go with Brenda Fries, Maryland basketball. Shout out to her. I just really think the culture that she drives at Maryland with resilience and togetherness and just mental toughness, that's something that inspired me.
Yeah. Alyssa, I always, or I should say when we view the tech space world, quite frankly, a lot of us do view and have that moniker of the tech bros, and a lot of those folks out in Silicon Valley. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to get into this particular topic, because you don't necessarily at all times hear about women kind of being at the top of the tech world. And I think there is something to be said about, again, women founders helping to shape various experiences within the tech space and specifically the sports tech space. So feel free. I'd love to hear you expound upon what Kristen was actually talking about here, about your experiences in the tech world here and trying to navigate this space.
Yeah, no, that definitely is a great question. I think with AI being such a hot topic and, it's rapidly, new features are rapidly, expanding and approaching. But with that, there's also a lot of risk involved with it. So
Yeah.
we are, tapped into using AI, using these different platforms to kind of bring things together. But there's also, a little bit of hesitancy, and you need to be very careful with it. And we want this to be something that is accurate and something that really paints the picture, again, with those AI risks. So we're definitely being cautious when we're looking into all of these platforms and trying to figure out what the best platforms are. There's so many tech platforms out there also. So which is the right one for us? Which one is going to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish? So that's been kind of probably our biggest challenge to date when, deciding we're going to launch an app.
Yeah.
And we've never launched an app before. We've never built an app. So
there's got to be a lot of balance there with that, because you want to dive in, you want to do something new, but that cautiousness that you're talking about, there has to be, I'm assuming, a balance there with it. So, I mean, with that being said, as we're ending the conversation here and concluding this discussion, let's talk about what the future holds for you and your startup. And again, hasn't been necessarily 100% out there yet, but where do you see BackcourtIQ 5 years from now, Alyssa? What are your thoughts here?
Well, I mean, hopefully it's the number one women's basketball
there you
platform.
Go.
But yeah, I mean, I think we are kind of timing things with the start of the WNBA season. So that's going to be a big focus. But eventually we would like it to then kind of follow all aspects of women's basketball, and not just in the US. There's so many amazing leagues globally. So kind of expanding that reach. So it's not just, our mission isn't just to advance the visibility of women's basketball in the United States. It's to advance it everywhere. So I think that's going to be something that we really look to scale in the future.
Kristen, feel free to close us out here. Where do you see BackcourtIQ in about 5 years?
Yeah, I agree with Alyssa on globalization. Go global or go home, right?
Yeah.
We've got to get that set. And really just being a central hub where fans feel like they have a safe space where they can chat with each other and discuss the importance of women's basketball. So we want to be that app. We want to be those people.
Folks, again, BackcourtIQ, be on the lookout for this app to blow up and the great work that these ladies are doing. Alyssa, again, let everybody know where they can find you all on the socials out there.
Yep, at BackcourtIQ on Instagram, and BackcourtIQ.com on the internet.
All right. Very good. Again, folks, Alyssa Freda, Kristen Roberts, thank you so much, ladies. I appreciate you taking the time to jump on our Table Talk interview show here at the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show. You know what? Let's talk again at some point down the road. Let's see how Backcourt IQ is doing. I'd love to have you back on the show.
Oh, we would love that. Thank you so much, Jeff. It was great to see you again.